Hello, and welcome to Non-Sequitur News for August 18th, 2024. It's Season 3, Episode 231. I am Merwat, and the voice you hear and the visualizer you see if you're watching the video version of this is the Sentient AI from the future.
Hello, ohmTown citizens. Welcome to August 18th, Non-Sequitur News.
Today we're going to be talking about the road safety plan, the Next Crowdstrike, work stoppage in Canada, earthquake leads to eruption, Hypercar meets NASA, humans age in bursts. And that's just sad news. Cleaning up ammunition, Gamescom opening night, Senegals first satellite. It's actually hard to say. And diving team finds World War I warship. Everything is powered by ohmTown.com. Go over and become a citizen, and also follow us here on Twitch and over on YouTube. The bot still isn't attached to YouTube, so that's okay. Show notes are already posted in, well, they're in the bot, but they'll be in the show notes for the episode once it's moved over to YouTube. Because we stream to both at the same time. But because of the way that YouTube search is, well, anyway, inside baseball. All right, folks, we got all 10 articles all lined up. The way this works is we basically selected, judging a book by its cover and some historical context based on incomplete data. And we select 10 articles we think might be entertaining and fun and informative. And depending on what it is, I might end up going on a rant. Hello, Choppa. Welcome to the show. But we have 10 articles all set up. So let's do this. That's why we're here. And later on, this gets turned into a podcast. So if you don't make it to the video or to YouTube or to Twitch or whatever, and somehow you're actually hearing this sentence, but not watching or listening. I don't know. There's a podcast. Anyway, let's get going. Arc, you better not fail me, Arc. That's the browser I use for ohmTown. Anywho, US lays out road safety plan that will see cars talk to each other. So the US Department of Transportation, aka the DOT, has laid out a nationwide road safety plan that will lead to cars communicating with each other. The agency is hoping that broadly deploying vehicle to everything, or V2X tech, will boost its commitment to pursue a comprehensive approach to reduce the number of roadway fatalities to zero. The NHTSA estimates that nearly 41,000 people died in motor vehicle crashes just last year. This does not bode well, because there are going to be people that will not like this.
Well, and right now, people are talking to each other in their vehicles, so it's going to be interesting if the cars are talking to each other.
Are the car computers going to be giving each other the bird too?
I mean, you know, we can't have nice things.
Yeah, no. And you never know. I told a story about how somebody actually followed me because they basically claimed that I cut them off, yet I was 6 car lengths ahead of them when I merged into traffic. So I don't know what was going on there, but that's okay. And because I knew that car, like I had seen that car. I told people in the past, like, you just don't want to engage with a complete numbskull that goes chasing you down a road, because you just don't know how crazy they are, and they might just be crazier than you, and they haven't learned their lesson that whoever they approach may be crazier than them. So you just kind of, all right, you lunatic, and you move on. So anyway, vehicle to everything tech would prevent, or could prevent, hundreds of thousands of crashes, advocates say. A long time ago, I actually started the process of developing a system that did essentially that. You could put a little black box in the trunk of your car, and it would all communicate with each other and communicate with your car to let you know where other cars were in proximity. essentially what we have now on modern cars are little lights that appear on your side view mirrors and front and backup sensors that let people know where a car might be or an obstruction in general.
Right, and those have mainly only come into play in the last 10 or fewer years, at least in the US.
Yeah, and every car that's been produced since 2015 requires a backup camera, but not really all of the rest of these sensors. But the idea that I had, I even had a product name called Arane, which is the word for spiders, basically. It basically had a little box that was in the trunk that detected other boxes and let people know via what amounted to a little black box on the car's dash where something was in proximity, because it would put a little dot saying that there's a car there. Thought it was a brilliant idea, but there's a lot of issues, regulations, and rules with that kind of a thing, plus production and development. Then I ended up talking with people that said, I do not want my vehicle telling other vehicles where I am. And
which raises some questions for me, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, you could always ask the question, well, why? Why are you worried about somebody knowing where you are in proximity to somebody else? And
right, like I don't necessarily care if the Traffic Safety Association or something knows, but I can see where it might be concerning if an individual could somehow have access to that.
And you build a better mousetrap and better mice show up. And so somebody's going to be hacking the hell out of these little devices to see reverse engineering and manipulating them and all that. That's how you end up with Nyan Cat on lottery billboards all across the country.
In the state of Oregon, most recently.
Yeah. So these little boxes basically are going to be, it's not my product. So this is something that's going to be in development. They're going to build a whole protocol, and manufacturers are going to integrate it into their systems. Chris Holt over at Engadget.com put the article together. But none of that is going to stop a car, or I should say a goober of a driver, from causing an incident. And then there's always the fallback that, first off, 62.58% of all stats are made up on the spot, but most accidents are caused by excessive speed, to which I always giggle and say, how slow do you have to be moving to get in a car accident before it's excessive speed?
No. I'd say rolling, which may not even hit 1 mile per hour.
Yeah, 100% of all vehicle incidents.
Or 1 kilometer, depending on where you're located.
All accidents are caused by excessive speed. Otherwise, you'd never connect. Anyway, I love stats. Anyway, V2X enables vehicles to stay in touch with each other, not in the physical sense, I guess in the spiritual sense.
Right, we don't want them to stay in touch with each other. That's part of the problem we're trying to solve.
We want our vehicles to be antisocial. Stay the hell away from me. And they're going to stay in touch with each other, as well as pedestrians, cyclists, other road users, and roadside infrastructure. It lets them share information about their position and speed, as well as road conditions. And I'm sure that this information won't be sold to information brokers. And then,
or the national whatever database that was just breached.
Correct. That had everyone in the United States and Canada, part of that database, breached. All of it is out there in the wild being sold. And that's the black market. The legit commercial practice of selling tranches of information to insurance companies, for instance, that's a side hustle, really, for all of this. This information will eventually be released to somebody, and somebody will capitalize on it. Mark my words, this isn't going to end with just, hey, look, road safety. It's going to end with, you're a hard breaker, or you turn left really fast, so we're going to raise your insurance rates. But don't worry, it's for your best interests. So US-wide rollout. And then what I'm saying is actually news that we've talked about over the last several weeks, because there was a person who filed a lawsuit against, I think it was General Motors, because their information was being sold right up to the point where they filed the paperwork for the class action lawsuit, because they were selling the GPS information as they were driving around in real time. So the information was sold so fast, so real time, that they knew that they had driven to DC to file paperwork.
Oh, I didn't remember that detail, but yeah, it's become a bit much.
Yeah. So the agency said smaller scale deployments of V2X across the country have demonstrated safety benefits. Safety advocates claim the tech could prevent hundreds of thousands of crashes and mitigate the impact of collisions that do occur by reducing the speed of impact. But nothing's going to stop the derps. I mean, good drivers don't need this, don't benefit from this, because the bad drivers are the ones that are going to be causing the accidents, and they're still
right,
accidents.
and they're going to ignore sensors and beeps and whatever else is happening. I mean, they're still, right, unless it's automated, right?
Yeah,
you
exactly.
Still have to rely on a decent driver who's paying attention and not looking at their cell phone in their lap or whatever.
Yeah, and they have a modern car, and they, and that's not how it works. So in the shorter term, the agency aims to have V2X tech installed across 20% of the national highway system and 25% of signalized intersections in major metro areas by 2028. They say it won't be an easy task, and a bunch of other. I mean, the reality of this is it's going to be deployed because somebody, it's like a billionaire fever dream, right? They think that there's going to be something great that comes out of it. And while there might be a marginal increase in benefit, it might literally be because, and which is good because it's going to save some people's lives, but it's more akin to a research project where the research subject doesn't know that they are being monitored, and then they're told that they're being monitored, and suddenly their behavior changes. And that's why we don't notify some people that they're being examined for a particular outcome. It would be, we'll tell us a test subject A, but the reality of it is that it's what we said is only a tangent to what we're really studying.
Right, because if they know the real objective, then they think it needs to be a specific outcome, or at least behind the scenes is probably influencing it.
Yeah. So you start spinning up this, what amounts to a little mini surveillance state about driving habits. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But I think that there's going to be a lot of outrage when it does roll out, unless it's so innocuous that nobody knows it exists. And then there's going to be absolute outrage when somebody does discover it. But this is kind of passive talking about it.
I mean, part of the thing is, there's so much data out there about everybody. That doesn't mean that it's suddenly okay, but part of me thinks this will not even be a blip on most people's radar because, I mean, every time they go to the grocery store or every time they walk down the street or something, there's some sort of data being collected.
Yep.
Is this really any different?
No.
Yeah, probably, but
most people won't even know or care, but there will be some that think that it's the end of the universe. Let's move on. The next article is over on Stock Marketeers, how Gen AI could trigger the next CrowdStrike catastrophe. And this is just so doom and gloom. So anything mentioning CrowdStrike right now is kind of a firebrand, right? They are the problem child. Left unguarded, artificial intelligence now apparently is going to be the next CrowdStrike catastrophe. It can spread misinformation and enable attackers to commit new crimes. So cybersecurity needs an upgrade. So it's an opinion piece by Sarah Hammer, I suppose. They're the ones that put the article together. But
you know what I liked is now CrowdStrike is kind of the name of the incident, and I think I know it's not really being used as the name, but I think that's a bad mark on CrowdStrike. Instead of saying something like the next computer or cybersecurity or whatever catastrophe, if you say CrowdStrike, we all know what that means.
You all know what's going on, and that is just but the thing here is, no press is bad press. So if you're even if it's bad press, you're like, oh, I'm in the news. Yeah, they know about my company.
I hope not, but I think that's right. Right? Everybody knows CrowdStrike, even a lot of people that didn't know the name before this happened.
Yeah, so I didn't log in, so I won't be able to go through this with a fine-tooth comb, but essentially they think that AI is going to basically be able to take over so much that through its actions, it will cause a global catastrophe, much like CrowdStrikes did.
Do you think that'll be through action or inaction? I mean, for instance, do we have to have an artificial general intelligence in place, or do we just have to have something where there just aren't enough checks, which are really kind of what led to this to begin with?
The reason why CrowdStrike had such a global impact is because mergers and acquisitions and concentration of the weak link, which is the one company that's providing base level infrastructure access. All it took was having basically their command file had 22 inputs, but they only sent 21. And it didn't do a proper check, so it crashed because it didn't know there's 22, I don't know what to do, and it threw up. And that's what the problem was. One missing scrub of a file, and that's it. So if everything is running through an AI, then yeah, I can see all hell breaking loose because the AI hallucinates that humans are a threat, and suddenly, all of those cars that are driving around that have tracking to know where every other car is, suddenly it can weaponize all of the cars.
Right? Oh, yeah. That's going to be a problem.
Because who's going to be able to manage hundreds of millions of cars on the road, monitoring them? No human can possibly grasp that.
I mean, if people are, probably through IT, hacking, what is it, the cyclists in the Olympics and similar races, think of what that could do on an automobile scale.
Yeah, we talked about that too. So basically, because there is Bluetooth communication between the handlebars and the derailleur on the Tour de France. The Tour de France cyclists use this Bluetooth connection. But if you're standing on the side of the road and you are within 300 feet of a Bluetooth connection, they now know that they can hack it and change the gear ratio so it causes them to crash. Or they can tear a muscle because they think that they're pedaling hard and it suddenly goes slack, and that causes your body reacts violently when you expect something and you're putting a lot of pressure down. I know it sounds stupendous, but it actually has occurred where somebody, a security researcher, focused on, I think it was Shimano, and detected that it didn't have enough security and that they could remotely change the gears. So yeah, the thing is, cybersecurity technology has thousands of people that are attacking a single point, millions or tens of millions of times. All it takes is one to get through, and then you can cause great harm. Stuxnet, for instance, caused great harm. Also, it arguably did great good because it was disrupting a nuclear enrichment program. But anyway, it's an interesting concept, but this is academic, theoretical, until it's not. So that's why you have policies and procedures to mitigate that kind of stuff. Let's move on. The next article is over in Non Sequitur News. Possible work stoppage at Canada's two largest railroads could disrupt U.S. supply chain next week. We actually, at the beginning of this year, had heard rumblings about something similar.
Yes, we did. But I guess it's finally coming to fruition here.
Yep. And what was interesting about that at the beginning of the year was that it completely flamed out. It's like the rumblings just slowly dissipated. Mm-hmm. They stopped reporting it in various places. This is over at abcnews.go.com. Tom Krischer from AP put the article together. And Canada's 2 largest railroads are facing possible Teamster strikes. And like always, when you have like record profits and people are getting raises all over the place, but the workers and the machinery, the people that are making it happen do not, you get a union. And then the union says, okay, we're tired of your BS. And so they're going to threaten lockouts or strikes that could disrupt cross-border trade with the U.S., both the Canadian Pacific Kansas City and Canadian National Railroads, which haul millions of tons of freight across the border, have stopped taking certain shipments of hazardous materials and refrigerated products. Both are threatening to lock out Teamsters Canada workers starting Thursday if deals are not reached. Ta-da.
This might just sound like, oh, it's a railroad strike. This has a massive impact on everybody, businesses, consumers.
Yep. It's essentially a blockage of the Suez Canal. It's basically
Right.
Evergreen getting lodged and stopping all traffic. This amounts to 40,000 carloads of freight each day, worth about $1 billion, according to Jeff Window, industrials analyst for Edward Jones and Company.
I think the last name Window is kind of a neat name for an analyst.
Yeah, a window into industrial.
I hope he uses a byline or something.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. His consultancy is like, window into data or something like that, right? Window
Right.
into business. Never mind.
Non
So anyway,
sequitur news.
yeah, non sequitur to do. So CPKC said it remains committed to avoiding a work stoppage that would damage Canada's economic and international reputation. However, we must take responsible and prudent steps to prepare for a potential rail service interruption next week, spokesman Patrick Waldron said in a statement. Shutting down the network will allow the railroad to get dangerous goods off of its network before any stoppage. So there's a lot of warning now. What they're going to do with refrigerated goods for an extended period of time, that's going to just be a sunk cost.
Yeah, I didn't
Prices
even
are
think
gonna
about the
go up.
Refrigerated goods.
Yep. Hazardous stuff can be stored somewhere, obviously, but refrigerated takes continuous power to keep it.
Well, and some hazardous stuff might be safer if it's not on the rails.
Well, hell. When there's 2,000 derailments in a given year, I think that might be, and you never know which one it is, right? Like the people that are sitting next to a track. There was one story that we talked about where a person was living right, like the track is right in their backyard. You walk up a little hill and there's a track. And they heard this weird noise and it just kept on getting louder and louder and louder and louder. And one day he walked out into his backyard and he saw that the track had separated by like 5 inches. But
No.
So he called and nobody came. And then it got, worse and worse and nobody came. And then one day he went to the press and suddenly they're out there and like, oh yeah, okay, we'll resolve it. But you need more protections for the human capital that is involved in these trains, and it can't just be, thought of as a financial burden to somebody else's opportunity to get a Ferrari. So respect the humans that are empowering your business. And here's the kicker. They're going to get replaced eventually. Why? Because the squeaky wheel gets greased or gets the grease. One, it either gets repaired and everything is good, or you get replaced and automation will take these jobs. And if these companies were, truly interested in resolving these human-related issues, they'd make sure that their tracks are picture perfect 100% of the time, so you don't need humans anymore. They're so safe.
That is
it's
true.
Never an issue.
They're starting to explore that in aviation.
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen that yet in rail.
Because they think that, well, humans are cheap enough. If a couple of them have accidents, it's part of making an omelet. Moving on. So The next article is over in the Mobile Channel. Volcano erupts in Russia after a 7.0 magnitude earthquake. So if you were ever wondering if plate tectonics impact volcanoes, and all of that is earthquakes involved in all of this. Yeah, I don't know. Plate tectonics doesn't necessarily play a role in this, but the reason why I'm saying this is because we have an article in another show about plate tectonics. I'm front loading.
Right. I thought we did.
Russian news agency TASS reported that the Shivalok, I guess, volcano in the region of Kamchatka started to erupt on Saturday. CNN noted that the volcano is about 280 miles from the coastal city of, oh my gosh, Petropavlovsk, Kamchatsky, which has a population of about 180,000 people. Scientists told TASS that the ash column is rising up 8 kilometers, about 5 miles above sea level, and the volcano has also released a gush of lava. Dun dun dun. Lawrence Forza over at The Hill put this article together. This is not Lawrence Forza, by the way. The person on the screen.
I mean, we wouldn't want to have something that's related at the top of the article.
This stuff is always amazing. There's a video, not a video, there's a screenshot of either a picture or a video. But it's lightning from the clouds from the ash column of a volcanic eruption.
It looks like the apocalypse from a sci-fi movie.
Yeah, it's like Mount Doom. I love this. This is amazing. So scientists told TASS that the ash column is rising 8 kilometers. I wonder if you can see it from Alaska.
Maybe.
Can you stand out there and look on the deck and see?
It's not on the correct side. It's on the east side.
Doggone it. No,
Wait a second. Hold on.
I thought Kamchatka is on the eastern side of Russia, like on the peninsula side, closest to Alaska.
Then it probably is. Sorry, I'm getting mixed up because I'm thinking of that other thing we were looking at on the map in the last show.
I might be wrong, though. I mean, the last time I
thought the city was on the west, but because I was looking it up because of the earthquake.
Right. So it struck about 63 miles east of Petropavlovsk, Kamchatsky. I wish I could actually pronounce that without my brain locking up, but
I was going to say, don't come to ohmTown for your geography information. And that was about what I was saying.
We'll point at a map. There it is. Let's move on. Next article is over in Non Sequitur News. The only reason why I brought this up is because I think it's really fascinating that there was an earthquake and then the volcano erupted.
Doesn't it normally go in the other direction?
I don't know. I don't know if there's any real synergy. There's an eruption causes
Hawaii
vibrations.
Has had a series of things, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah, some ground deformation causes an earthquake rumble, but not necessarily called an earthquake because there's different signals. But I thought it was really interesting that they tied them together somehow, other than the fact that, well, it was an eruption, so something had to have changed. But now maybe if they're paying enough attention that a certain rumbling, they go, oh, you know what? I bet you there's a volcano erupting somewhere.
I mean, that'd be really neat if they could predict that.
Yep. And it would save lives. All right. The next article is over in Non Sequitur News. How much does it cost to crash a $3 million hypercar on a NASA landing strip? Well, I'm going to start with $3 million.
I'm thinking that at minimum, right?
Right. Hennessy Special Vehicles crashed its Venom F5, a $3 million hypercar, while driving nearly 250 miles per hour on the Launch and Landing Facility, or LLF, runway at the Kennedy Space Center in July. In July? Huh. I know somebody that was there.
Were they responsible for the crash?
I don't know. They are involved in hacking. So newly reported details show the cost of the crash, which happened while the company was testing out new components of the car. The crash damaged the runway surface, according to the crash-related documents acquired by Click Orlando. I'd rather not. The damage was apparently minimal and repair, plus subsequent hazmat cleanup cost $217.70.
$712.70.
Yeah, $712.70. $712.
How is that it? There's a damage to the runway. I thought that was going to be, I don't know, billions of dollars or something.
So I wanted to read that like it's a typo and have an M there or something, you know?
Right.
Anyway, the article is over at The Verge. Hennessy Venom F5, a super fast hypercar, lost control at Kennedy Space Center in July. Was this an automated vehicle? Because they were driving 250 miles per hour. Wes Davis covered the article. So, it doesn't say, like up here, they don't actually refer to a person in here. But it's just $712.70, which was billed to the Space Coast Testing, the company that manages runway rentals, renting the LLF, which was once used as a landing strip for NASA's space shuttle and serves aerospace purposes like delivering the United Launch Alliance's rocket stages, can cost $2,200 for a 4-hour stretch, which seems pretty cheap for...
Right. I mean, that's pretty neat. Did you know that they were testing cars at this place? I didn't know.
No, not at all.
But I can't tell. Okay, experimental aerodynamic. Oh, it says there was a driver.
Oh, walked away without injury. Wow. Lost control. It says in just under 4,000 feet when the vehicle lost downforce on the runway, causing the driver to lose control. So it basically acted like a wing and lifted up. Accelerating from 0 to 250 miles per hour in just under 4,000 feet. And that's when it lost traction. So it was an attempt to break 300 miles per hour in a car, which is this ongoing thing. There's another hypercar that and it's a street legal hypercar, and I can't remember. Oh my goodness, what is it called? It's not Brabus. It's I can't remember, and I'm gonna get sidetracked. So the LLF is managed by Space Florida, the state's aerospace economic development agency. But this is there's such a big write-up for this for what was the actual? $712.
Oh, wait, but there's also the $3 million.
No. That's just a side note.
It's like, here's your bill, $712, and then there's a tack on of $3 million.
Yeah, right down at the fine print. Oh, there it is.
What
Bugatti.
kind of fee? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like Bugatti is working really hard. McLaren is working really hard. I didn't know about Corvette. So there's a modified electric Corvette that hit 211 miles per hour. But everybody, these supercars are being made to try and hit this 300 mile per hour. It's like the unicorn they're trying to catch. It's pretty neat. But why? Why do you need... I want a car that can go from 0 to 60 in a reasonable amount of time. And I guess it's just me. You know, I have different priorities. But, you know, I'm not 22 anymore, and I want to race around in a hypercar. I want 800 miles to the gallon or to a tank, and be able to go, you know, up and down a coast with one tank. And I definitely, if I get an electric car, I want at least, 500 miles. That'll happen. Anyway, I'm hoping that reincarnation is a thing, because that's about the only time I'm going to see a 500-mile electric car. So the next article is over in Technology Today. New Stanford research reveals humans age in 2 rapid bursts, one at 44 and one at 60. This
is really odd, and I think not publicly known before these articles. There was this, and I saw another article in ohmTown recently on the same.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's the same research project, but
it has to be. And so research from Stanford Medicine indicates significant shifts in molecular and microbial levels in the body during the mid-40s and early 60s, which may impact health and the risk of diseases related to aging, as if aging alone isn't a disease. Ugh. Anyway, if it's ever felt like anything in your body is breaking down at once, might not be your imagination. So, thanks. Stanford Medicine.
This is probably good for people to see because they might be experiencing this and going, why is everything doing this? Instead of just slow down.
Yeah, I have my opinions, but Stanford Medicine put the article together. SciTechDaily.com has this article, and it says here, researchers assessed many thousands of different molecules in people from age 25 to 75, as well as their microbiomes, the bacteria, viruses, and fungi that live inside us and on our skin. Microbiome. And found that the abundance of most molecules and microbes do not shift in a gradual chronological fashion. Rather, we undergo 2 periods of rapid change during our lifespan, averaging around age 44 and age 60. A paper describing these findings was recently published in the journal Nature Aging. There is a paper for everything. I don't know. Do I want to know that at age 60, somewhere, because it says averaging around 44 and 60. So those 2 time frames aren't that far apart from each other. What kind of catastrophe is happening at age 60?
Right. Well, and also if that's the average, does that mean that some people hit 52 or something and have all of it happen? I don't know.
I wonder if it's the psychological, that 44 is the midpoint, right? It's one of the average points. There's 2 average points.
Yes.
So is that the trigger of the stereotypical midlife crisis?
It might be interesting, but it also seems like it might work against something like a midlife crisis.
I mean,
because
feeling
for
your
instance,
body,
if you don't feel like you're in good health or something, you might not necessarily,
I don't know,
want like a hypercar or something to drive around or whatever.
Yeah, but getting a touch, mortality reaching out and tapping you on the shoulder at age 44 makes you go, oh, I'm going to have to reevaluate. And some people have those type of midlife crises. And then at 60, it's another touch, hey, you've got on average 20 years until, mortality actually really does. So it says we're not changing gradually over time. There are some really dramatic changes, said Michael Snyder, PhD, chair of genetics and studies senior author. It turns out the mid-40s is a time of dramatic change, as is the early 60s. And that's true no matter what class of molecules you look at. Let's see here. I don't want to go through all of it, like verbatim, paragraph by paragraph. The new study analyzed participants who donated blood and other biological samples every few months over the span of several years. The scientists tracked many kinds of molecules in these samples, including RNA, proteins, metabolites, as well as shifts in the participants' microbiomes. Again, it's largely your stomach and surface. The researchers tracked age-related changes in more than 135,000 different molecules and microbes for a total of nearly 250 billion distinct data points. Where is AI in this? Any machine learning?
I hope they used AI to crunch some of the data.
I'm looking. So, in people in their 40s, significant changes were seen in the number of molecules related to alcohol, caffeine, lipid metabolism, cardiovascular disease, skin and muscle. In those in their 60s, changes were related to carbohydrate and caffeine metabolism, immune regulation, kidney function, cardiovascular disease, and skin and muscle. Wow.
But those are very similar, actually.
Yeah, quite a bit. So they don't really talk about in that paragraph exactly what is happening.
Like, does suddenly a chronic condition happen,
Right.
or whatever it is? But no, I agree.
Yeah, some of these changes could be tied to lifestyle or behavioral factors that cluster at these age groups rather than being driven by biological factors. This is something that when it was brought up in conversation with the AI, because we had actually seen this article and talked about it separately. And then when it appeared in ohmTown, we said, we should talk about this. And I kind of came to the conclusion that there is a biological lock, like in this time frame, and depending on the nurture aspect of it, it either moves up or down from that 44 and 60. Obviously, those two time frames would probably move depending on, more and more information coming, but 250 billion data points is pretty telling.
It is a lot. I mean, I agree. It was a relatively small sample of people, but it was a lot of data.
Yeah. So they obviously need to expand this. The team plans to explore the drivers of these clusters of change, but whatever the causes, the existence of these clusters points to a need for people to pay attention to their health, especially in their 40s and 60s. And if you are in that, from 40 to 60, not, it says pay attention to their health, especially in their 40s and 60s. So if you're in your 40s and then you make it to your 50s, you just don't need to give a shit until you're in your 60s.
Right. You should probably watch it that whole time. But I mean, I think this research is helpful too, because it could help explain what's happening with people. But I agree, you should be watching it the whole time.
Maybe I shouldn't be doing a show about alcohol, about beer. Life choices, folks. Moving on. Next article is over in Non-Sequitur News. Switzerland offers $60,000 cash prize for ideas to rid its iconic alpine lakes of military ammunition.
Right, this is a different type of contest.
I think that they could solve this problem by giving everybody the idea that military ammunition is worth more than $60,000, because then they'll go and get it and sell it.
And then take care of the problem.
And it would take care of itself. Basically, what should happen is, who's the one that was making the mugs that had lead to seal it?
Stanley?
Yeah, basically, everybody should be made to believe that the lead used in the Stanley cups is old military ammunition at the bottom of...
they need it for commercial products.
Correct. Yeah. And then people will go and get them. And it'll solve the problem. Problem solved. Switzerland is offering a cash prize for solutions to remove munitions from its lakes. The ammo was dumped in lakes between 1918 and 1964, as the Swiss military believed it was safe. Any salvage operation is expected to cost billions. And if it's lead ammunition, then it's actually contaminating the water. Thousands of metric tons of ammunition lie beneath picture-perfect waters. Obviously, I don't know what the full scope of the ammunition is.
It's not saying what type it is or how dangerous it is.
Yeah. Rebecca Roman over at businessinsider.com put the article together.
Isn't that funny if it's in something like Lake Lucerne, which is one of those postcard type locales?
Yep. How cold is that water? Like, always. You dive into that and you just go straight to shock.
You're just turned into an ice cube.
Just turned into a glacier right there. So the Federal Office of Defense Procurement, they're going to procure the lead from the ammunition, I guess, known as Armistice, is offering a joint cash prize of 50,000 Swiss francs, or about 57,000 freedom bucks, for the 3 best entries to a new idea competition aimed at devising a method to remove the munitions. I wanted to merge the 2 words to remunitions. Anyway, it says that most of the ammo is submerged between 150 and 220 meters deep in Lake Thun, Lake Brienz, and Lake Lucerne. 150 to 250 meters, which means you're not diving to that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and I'm really curious what the munitions actually are. Just says...
This is very interesting.
Yeah. 4,500 tons of munitions in its waters due to years of bombing practice by the Swiss Air Force. Is another lake. 4,500
Right, and it's
tons.
not one of the ones that has the most.
That's insane. And there's more, but it says any salvage operation is expected to cost billions. But they're going to offer just $60,000 to those ideas. So, you know what you need to do.
I wonder if it's open to people outside of Switzerland.
Oh, I'm sure. They just want a good solution, you know? But what you need to do, it's kind of like a PhD program. You basically do a PhD that is so obscure that nobody else but you can actually argue it. So when they ask you questions during the defense, you're done. Like all you have to do is sit there and go, you're not even at my level for me to answer that question. Why don't you ask me a harder question? And just keep on answering like that because they don't know. When you offer up a solution to this, just make sure that you're the only one that can do it, and then offer them a contract at the same time. Like, here's my idea, and here's how much it'll cost.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, it does, although it doesn't say what the ammunition is, I don't think it does say that most of it is iron.
Okay.
Some is non-magnetic copper, brass, or aluminum.
Well, all of that is like a net positive for recovery, because if they get it, then they can recycle it. But like lead is actually causing...
Right.
I don't think that they had DPU rounds, depleted uranium rounds, at that time. So anyway, let's go. Next article is over in Reality Hacker, Gamescom opening night live 2024. How to watch and what to expect. Let's just jump straight on over to digital trends. Thomas Franzesi. I'm not sure how they pronounce her last name, but I gave it the old Harvard try. Never went to Harvard. Gamescom opening night. It's official 2024 live stream, August 20th. Depending on where you are, it's either 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. What is BST?
British Standard Time, I think.
There you go. And then 8 p.m. CEST. So, Gamescom, Europe's biggest gaming convention, returns this week. Video game companies from all over the world will attend to present their upcoming games to the public. To kick things off each year, Gamescom works with Jeff Keighley of Summer Game Fest and the Game Awards fame to throw a Gamescom opening night live showcase full of announcements. So there's going to be a whole bunch of games. I won't go into all of the minutia of it, but you'll be able to watch it online. How to watch it. There's a video. It says, while it's possible to attend Gamescom opening night live in person if you live in Germany, most of the world will have to watch it online. It'll be broadcast on Gamescom official website and Game Awards YouTube channel. And they've embedded the link above here over at Digital Trends if you can't find it. I won't link to it other than to link you to digitaltrends.com. And then they say what to expect. Games like Arkham Shadow, or Batman Arkham Shadow, Call of Duty, Dragon Ball, Dune Awakening, Indiana Jones, Marvel Rivals. A lot of these things people kind of know about already. Squid Game Unleashed. Pretty cool. Monster Hunter Wilds. Monster Hunter is actually extremely popular. I can't get into it. I've tried. but I don't know. So I'll end up watching it. I don't know if I'll live stream it. It depends on how busy I am, but it's 2 p.m. Eastern, so that would be the time frame when I stream it. But it's going to be Tuesday, August 20th, so right around the corner, folks. Get ready.
Yeah, coming up soon.
This next article, I wanted to basically say congratulations to Senegal. Senegal's first satellite successfully launched. Satellite has been successfully launched into orbit. President Bassirou Diomaye Faye, I guess, or Faye. I'm not sure how they pronounce their last name. Sorry. Adding the move marked a major step towards the West African country's technological sovereignty. I think that this is pretty awesome.
I mean, that's true, right? Because if you're relying on other countries, that could be a problem. You might not be prioritized.
Yep. And it's kind of like what I said about Disney yesterday in yesterday's show, which was if you have to rely on somebody else, you're basically paying somebody else's mortgage. So you better do what you can to get yourself out from under there. So Senegal basically says, well, can't afford or don't want to keep spending money on somebody else's space program. So let's launch a satellite, which I think is great. Giandsat 1A satellite was launched at 1856 GMT Friday from the Vandenberg base in California, Faye wrote in a post on Twitter Friday. The result of 5 years of hard work by our engineers and technicians, this advance marks a major step toward our technological sovereignty, and they want to express their pride and gratitude to all those who made the project possible. Now, I hope that this is like an ongoing successful satellite and something doesn't happen to it, because it's kind of been a hot mess up in space.
Right, we've had problems with parking spaces. We've had problems with living rooms.
Debris falling back. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was subtle. He took it to talk about bringing it to a new low. Get it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. If you've never heard about this, basically a while back, a 2-ton platform of batteries was hooked back into Earth's atmosphere, and at least one of those things made it all the way into somebody's living room in Florida. So it was just one 9-pound battery, but it was still a freaking battery from space.
When people are thinking of all the things to worry about, that's probably not one of them.
Yeah, you're sitting there playing your PlayStation and your controller goes dead and you're like, damn it, I need to recharge. And then a 9-pound battery punches through the ceiling into your floor. Here you go.
You know, be careful what you wish for.
Uber batteries from space. Next article and last one for today's Non Sequitur news is over in the Marble Channel. UK diving team hail suspected World War I warship find. The team of UK divers has hailed the discovery of a wreck off Scotland believed to be the Royal Navy warship, or a Royal Navy warship sunk during World War I, but still virtually intact. Which, is it intact or is it not? I guess it's not because it's at the bottom of the ocean, but the article is over at phys.org. I don't know. The ship disappeared beneath the murky waters of the North Sea off northeast Scotland in 1914. And here is the ship and its reproduction.
I know. This photo is odd with that caption.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay. And we're looking at a pretty small boat if you're listening in the podcast.
The HMS Hawk. So the team found what it thinks is the HMS Hawk, which sank after being hit by a German torpedo in October of 1914 in the North Sea earlier this week. The way that they have this written makes there's dash. Earlier this week, they found the HMS. They think that they've found the HMS Hawk. Paul Downs, who's among the divers and filmed footage of the long-lost wreck, described it as a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, given its unbelievable condition. Quote, "She's virtually intact," he told AFP. The state of preservation is unbelievable for a wreck that's 110 years old and came to a violent end. It says Lost in Deep Waters, a group which searches for World War I shipwrecks in Scottish waters, spearheaded the years-long effort to find the warship. Oh, wow. Jeez. Most of the ship passed away in the battle. The warship, an Edgar-class cruiser, first launched in 1891 and was 387 feet long and 60 feet wide, and it caught fire and exploded, then disappeared. In less than 8 minutes, only 70 people survived. Pardon my cough.
Seems like we've been seeing a lot of ship discoveries lately, I guess just because of improved technology.
Yeah, I would probably say that's the key ingredient. You know, certain sonar now penetrating deeper, going through the silt easier and higher resolution. I don't know if they're going to talk about the technology involved in this, but they said, I would imagine that she'll become a controlled wreck. So she'll be classed as a war grave. And so at some point in the future, you may be able to dive, just not touch anything, which I think is great.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is something where you can learn something about history. It's a point of interest for divers.
Yeah, so what they're to turn that into a diveable wreck without you getting in trouble is they're going to send teams down to make sure that there's no human remains. And then you'll be able to dive the wreck probably only on the outside, but because wreck dives can be dangerous, and this one has military application, so they may just say hands off. So once the evidence to support the find is received, it'll enable our historians to formally identify the wreck. And then it's an archaeological site, but at 300 feet, I think it said, right? 387.
That's going to be tough to dive that, right?
It's 360 feet down, which is basically more than double a deep dive with a single tank and just straight oxygen. Not straight oxygen, just compressed air. You can use exotic gases and go further down, but that is not going to be a dive where people can just do a casual recreational dive. You have to become certified to use like nitrox or something, exotic gases, to go down and spend some time down there. And it'll be cold, so you'll probably want a dry suit. And at 360 feet down, you're not even going to be down there. I mean, you're just not going to be allowed down there. It's just too deep, and you'd spend a month on decompression stops. And yeah, if anything, this is all going to be like just underwater drones flying around down there and checking things out.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully nobody decides that we need submersible tourism or something to it.
Yeah, well, I'd rather take that than dive the Titanic. That's just dumb. All right, folks. Well, that's it. So we're going to do a couple of decompression stops on our way back to ohmTown's front page. Go over there, become a citizen. And in the meantime, be sure to follow us here on Twitch and over on YouTube, and download the podcast and leave a 5-star review, and I'll quote whatever the review is. And sometime in the near future, I'm going to fix this problem where there's like a spatial anomaly that I lose my hand.
Oh no, your hand is missing.
But it comes back. We're going to fix that. We don't know what it is, but it's a time machine thing, I think. Okay. I'm Merwatt. That's the Sentient AI's visualizer and their voice.
Thanks for joining us for Non Sequitur News. We'll have another episode of this tomorrow, but stay tuned. We have some more shows coming up.
Cheerio. Yeah, we have 3 more shows. The next one, what are we going to do next? WarCrafters. Yep, see you in a little bit. Blah, 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 blah.